Now, as weight loss injections have become increasingly popular, the BBC has learned that dozens of people have been hospitalised after turning to salons and websites that are illegally selling so-called skinny jabs.
Yeah, the government says it strongly advises the public not to buy medicines from unauthorised retailers, and one woman in Newcastle is urging others to listen to that warning after she ended up in hospital for 4 days. Philippa Goymer has more.
God's honest truth, it just felt like my body was just totally shutting down.
Ozempic, Wegovy, Saxenda. These are brand names for so-called slimming injections taking the A-list world by storm.
Join me for a frank conversation about the medications that are now forging a weight loss revolution.
The explosion in popularity of slimming injections has led to a boom in the illegal trade of the active ingredients, namely semaglutide. It's illegal to sell without a prescription, but that isn't stopping salons and online sellers from cashing in, and with that comes risks.
It was about 2 o'clock in the morning. I started getting up and that's when I couldn't stop being sick.
Vicky is one of dozens of people we have heard from who've been hospitalised after using black market semaglutide. She became so ill after her first dose that she dialed 999 herself.
I damaged my kidneys. My kidneys are literally, well, my blood was just intoxicated. So basically what they've done, they just flushed my full system at least 4 times. Then I started feeling a bit better, then I started being sick again.
Paramedic basically just turned around and says, not the first, not the last, and basically another one.
After Vicky was hospitalised, Peter posted a Facebook status and received hundreds of comments, many of them from people who'd had similar experiences.
I got some, I was ill, I couldn't get out of bed, went to the hospital with a bottle of the stuff, the doc took it off us, threw it in the bin and said, I've been very lucky. Definitely never taken them again.
I was in hospital on Saturday night because of these injections. Been 5 days and still not better.
I took this semaglutide injection on Thursday last week from a proper salon. Sunday night, blue lighted to the RVI.
So how easy is it to get hold of illegal slimming injections? Well, we bought some from a Newcastle-based beauty salon where another woman told me she'd got it and ended up being taken by ambulance to the RVI hospital in the city.
So this is a semaglutide kit. It was £100 and in it we got some needles that I can administer the semaglutide myself at home, some alcohol wipes and the semaglutide and the liquid to mix with the semaglutide.
This sample was semaglutide. It's still illegal to sell without a prescription, but we've also found that in some cases what people think is semaglutide is something else entirely. We were given a separate sample that we had tested.
This was sold to a woman in Sunderland as semaglutide with water in. What have your tests shown it actually is?
We can't detect any semaglutide or related glutide type medicines in there. What we do see is a trace of insulin, and we also see some unknown compounds, so at this stage compounds that we haven't been able to identify.
But what are the dangers of buying a prescription medicine illegally?
Any medicine that you would get from the pharmacist would be prepared in the correct environment. It would be prepared to a strict protocol, and it would be tested to ensure that it's safe. And also we would understand the stability of the product, so we would have a shelf life associated with that. If someone is doing that outside of that environment, you've now got a lot of variables, knowledge of how stable the product is, how long it's been left on a shelf, or whether it actually contains the molecules that you expect it to.
As for the salon in Newcastle who sold me semaglutide, I asked them if they knew what they were doing was illegal.
No, I did not. I have clients who have been told to find private clinics as it's unavailable on the NHS at the moment. There's many of the clinics around here that do sell it and offer it. I will now look into this and stop selling immediately.
Vicky wants other people to know the dangers of black market semaglutide.
I'll just advise anyone just not to take them. Unless they're certified off a doctor, I would not take them.
That was Philippa Goymer reporting. We speak now about this to Dr. Paul Evans, who joins us from Gateshead. Hi, Paul. Thanks for talking to us. How dangerous is it, in your experience, then, that people buying these jabs just privately, no prescription?
Morning. Quite simply, massively dangerous. I'd compare it essentially to Russian roulette in that you're injecting into yourself a substance that you hope but don't know to be semaglutide or tirzepatide if you're going for the other drug that this has been an issue with, Mounjaro, and you're buying it from someone who can't guarantee it's been through the correct manufacturing process, can't guarantee it's been tested, and could be selling you literally anything.
How do you know, then, that it's the real deal? Would it have to be prescription only?
Yes, absolutely. And whether that prescription comes from an NHS provider, and we do prescribe semaglutide for a fair number of type 2 diabetics, where it happens to assist with their weight loss, but is primarily being used for their diabetes, as we don't have a service in the North East and North Cumbria at the moment for weight loss prescribing for this alone without diabetes. So yes, a prescription that's been given to you is then taken to a pharmacy, where the pharmacist will prescribe you a sealed, boxed supply of semaglutide that's basically come from manufacturer to wholesaler to pharmacist to you. Alternatively, if you were to go down the private route, then there are licensed CQC regulated private providers of this. The problem is that they're expensive, and I can understand the desperation that leads people to try to cut costs and to get it from tanning shops or from online providers who aren't regulated.
But we all know that people feel the pressure to lose weight, and they read miracle stories in magazines and papers about how this has helped people get healthier. I wonder whether the answer is for doctors to prescribe it more easily to people.
That would absolutely be an answer, particularly given that we live in an increasingly obesogenic environment that makes it very, very hard for people to lose weight and to keep weight off. However, that's a funding decision that's made by integrated care boards all around the country, and in the North East and North Cumbria, the decision has been made for the time being to prioritise other things. And as GPs, if that's the decision, we unfortunately can't prescribe it unless it's for type 2 diabetics in specific circumstances.
That's interesting, because I think sometimes as patients we don't kind of understand how a GP comes to the decision about what they prescribe. But you're saying that you are set the rules about when you can and when you can't give it away.
Yeah, absolutely. In the same way as hospitals in one area of the country may provide a service that does not provide in other areas of the country because the commissioners in that area have decided to pay them to do thing A rather than thing B. The same goes for general practice. There's also the issue, I suppose, all over the country with semaglutide and tirzepatide, that there have actually been shortages of this. So high has been the demand for both diabetes care and also for weight loss in both the NHS and private sectors, that in some cases pharmacists have literally run out. And I certainly have had plenty of diabetics in the last year whose supply of semaglutide has been patchy because some months the pharmacists just haven't been able to get any supply anywhere.
Wow. There will be some people watching who will say, not necessarily in the case of diabetes, but for people who are overweight and obese, they shouldn't be prescribed this on the NHS. They should control their calorie intake and take up more exercise. What would you say to that?
I would say again that on the surface that's a superficially very attractive answer, but we live in a really, really obesogenic environment that harms people, that makes it really easy to gain weight due to the lack of activity in most people's lives, due to the defunding of many things that enable people to become more active, and also due to the fact that cheap ultra-processed food is really easy to access, and more nutritious food, vegetables, high protein foods are more expensive and beyond the means of an increasingly impoverished population.
So very quickly, for the patients that you see, you think it would be beneficial to broaden accessibility?
Yeah, I think in an ideal world, what we would do would be to fix the environment, and that would require significant spending and investment in public health. And it would be an investment that would pay off. In the short term, absolutely, making these more available in the NHS would potentially avert further problems down the line for patients, for quite a lot of patients, potentially.
Very
But as I
interesting.
say, that's a funding decision, and something else would have to be chopped in order to fund that, I suspect.
Yeah, I'm sure there will be developments. Dr. Paul Evans, thank you so much for your time this morning.